It's not tech and it's not new, but this company with a quiet product is proving that innovation doesn't have to be loud and flashy.
We just validated that hotels were throwing out, almost half of their toilet paper inventory. It can be in the most boring of everyday products and services that you can reimagine and still feel like you have a pretty cool impact on the world. We probably have just north of 200 hotels that we're working with.
If you're working at a purpose-forward business, this episode is going to make you rethink where your biggest opportunities just might be hiding. Here's the full conversation. Stay tuned.
My name is Greg Hegger. I'm the co-founder and COO of Foxfold, and we are a sustainable tissue company for hotels.
Foxfold has turned purpose into a business. So if someone cares about connecting their purpose to profit, why should they listen to the next 45 minutes?
My answer is going to probably be a bit more personal in that if, from purpose from a business perspective, if you think that you need to come up with, the most incredible idea in the world or revolutionize a new technology or come up with some big new AI thing or be a rock star, whatever it is, if you think you need to do that to generate purpose and feel like you have impact on an everyday basis, I'm here to tell a different story that it can be in the most boring of everyday products and services that you can reimagine and still feel like you have a pretty cool impact on the world.
Let's be real. Nobody grows up dreaming of reinventing the roll of toilet paper. So what was the moment that made you go, okay, this could actually be a business idea?
Yeah, if you had told me 3 years ago that I would be touring around North America with my Pelican case with a toilet paper dispenser inside, literally going from hotel to hotel, I'd be like, no, that's not me, man. That's not what I do. But it could have been anything really, Doriana. I always knew that I wanted to create something that was tactile. It's not that I'm not a tech guy, but for me, it was always going to be something real that I could create from manufacturing. And frankly, the idea just sort of hit us in the head. I was working in corporate. I was in wireless for 15 years, and my cousin, who's my business partner, one day called me and said, "What do you know about toilet paper?" And we had been jamming on ideas since we were kids. We're really close, but nothing had ever come to fruition. We just kept jamming on ideas, and I'm like, "Oh man, like what toilet paper? I know nothing. What now? Like what's this idea?" And he's like, "There's a lot of waste in hotels." And I go, "Explain more." He's like, "Well, haven't you noticed there's always a big white glowing roll of toilet paper when you check into your hotel, or a foolish looking roll?" He's like, "What do you think happens to the other roll?" I'm like, "That's really interesting. I'll ask them." I traveled a lot for work. I managed about 5,000 retail wireless stores. I did marketing operations for them. So I was always on the road. So over the course of the next few weeks, I just asked the housekeepers, and he did the exact same thing. And we just validated that hotels were throwing out, almost half of their toilet paper inventory. So once we had this crazy idea, we validated it. We talked to hotel owners that said, "Hey, I think we could get behind this." And we had seen a new format in Europe, which is the folded toilet paper format. Okay. I don't know why it was this idea, but we just said, you know what? We think we have something here. We'd always dreamed about starting a business. We definitely didn't think it was going to be toilet paper. I thought it was going to be a lot, cooler than that. But here we are, and I'm glad we took that leap.
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, most people don't notice the little things in hotel stays, like what is going on with the rest of the toilet paper roll. So that is amazing that that's something that came to mind for you guys. And
yeah,
toilet paper isn't the sexiest industry, more on the manufacturing side. What was there a moment that you realized, okay, this is more than an idea, you could create a business out of it?
Yeah, I think it was a factor of things. Like any idea, it starts as just a nugget, as something like, oh, that would be interesting. Mm-hmm. And for whatever reason, this one just didn't let us go. The more we looked into it, like any other previous business idea, it typically fell apart, either one, because we realized it was going to be really difficult to do this. There isn't a market for it. There's no buyers, or we just lost interest. For this one, the more we dug in, the more we scratched at the surface, the more we realized that it was a real need. Like we kept walking away from meetings with general managers saying, if you guys build this and it looks cool, and it's great paper, I'll trial it. And so you leave 20 of these meetings with a potential buyer going like, validation, we throw out a lot of toilet paper. If you build this, I would trial it. You start to go, oh man, this, and our wives were saying, really, is this idea really not going away? You couple that with, we started touring tissue converting facilities. We started to figure out how we could make it. The big moment for us is through, a cold call. We were so lucky. We got an introduction to a company called Box Clever out of San Francisco, which is an award-winning product design firm. And the owner of the company said, fly to San Francisco and let's chat. And so we went there and they basically pitched us on becoming, equity partners with us and launching this thing. And once we got them, we're like, man, we've got potential buyers. We've got this amazing award-winning company that can help us with all the things that we don't know how to do. And we had talked to a few people that we think could be investors and they were interested. So of all the times in our lives to make that leap, to leave your cushy corporate job, which we liked, but of all the times to do it, it was the best setup to go, I think we really have something.
Yeah, it sounds like you had first the idea and then all of the testing and validation. Like, do people actually need this and would they pay for it?
Yeah, exactly. And I would recommend that for any entrepreneur. Obviously, it's the logical thing to do.
Right.
We'd say we just sort of jumped in. There was about almost a year's worth of work that went into validating this, right? From meeting potential buyers, understanding how it could be made, running the numbers, seeing that, this could be profitable, finding the right, design partners and manufacturing partners. There's a lot that we did before we finally held hands and said, okay, let's go all in.
Hotels are under a lot of pressure to be greener. Can you talk about how big a role toilet paper plays in that landscape?
Well, it doesn't right now, right? And I think that's the business opportunity for us. As a baseline, I feel that sustainability is important for all hotels, for any industry, really. The reality is it's definitely more important for some than others, right? Depending on where you are, your brand, who's leading the company. So I think where we have an interesting opportunity is we can help support their sustainability goals. In our case, it's reducing waste, specifically tissue paper. But just as importantly, and if not more importantly, in some cases, we're helping them save money, right? Everyone wants to be more sustainable, but if it costs a lot more and the ROI is really long, it's just realistically, it's a harder thing to sell. And so much like the small little soap and shampoo bottles that you used to see in hotels over 10 years ago, now you see dispensers on the wall. I mean, the reason for that is probably more of an economic reason. One of the great byproducts of that is now you don't have millions of little bottles being thrown out, right? So it's a win-win solution. And that's where we come in. And I think there are a lot of opportunities beyond just toilet paper and beyond just the hotel industry of simple everyday products that can be redesigned and reimagined to be more efficient, better from a price perspective, and more sustainable.
Right, because sustainability isn't always the loud or the huge, what we feel is innovative change. Sometimes it's the small everyday thing that could change the operations that will impact the amount of waste that's thrown away.
Yeah, 100% agree.
So in a video that I created for you guys, in my research and preparation for that, I saw that a 300-room hotel can throw away about 50,000 toilet paper rolls per year. So what went through your mind when you learned that for the first time? That's insane.
It's a lot. It's just a bit of a correction there. So they probably go through about 50 or just over that thousand, and they're throwing out, anywhere from 25% to 50% of that, depending on what their brand standards are. So it's still a crazy number, right? In terms of what they're throwing out. We were shocked. And this wasn't just one hotel that we talked to, right? We were lucky enough that we knew people in the hotel industry that said, hey, let me just look at my POs. Let me look at the number of rooms that I have. And that's when we're calculating, how much they go through on an annual basis. And then we talk to their operations team, we talk to housekeepers, and, you're like, well, we throw it out when it's halfway, or we throw it out when it's like this. And the reason, unfortunately, you throw out toilet paper is that you can't recycle it. It's water soluble. And a lot of the times they bring it down to the staff room and it collects in these big cardboard bins, but they're like, yeah, but then we just end up throwing that out. And it's not their fault. Right? I'm not knocking them down. It's just, there's no other solution for it. Right. And so it's kind of a cost of doing business. So you start multiplying that times all of the hotels that exist and the waste ranges, but like the number is material. We were at a huge resort, which I won't name, but we were able to go back of house to their garbage room, and it's just this pyramid of clear plastic bags full of garbage, and that's where they're sorting everything out, recycling and what's going into the waste. And the amount of clear plastic bags that we saw with toilet paper rolls and facial tissue boxes that weren't done, and this was when we hadn't fully jumped in. We're getting more validation of like, oh yeah, this is actually happening. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you feel that hotels had a concern for the waste, or is it something that's kind of written into their business model? Like this is something that we can write off.
I think that there was a concern for the waste, but there was no solution for it.
Mhm.
Right. And that's probably the same for a lot of inefficiencies that we have in our everyday life is we realize that this probably isn't the best, but what else are we going to do?
Like, what are the options? So you just kind of
Exactly.
accept
What
it
other
is.
options do we have? Precisely.
Yeah. So you partnered with a product design firm early on. So
Yeah.
what did it really unlock for you guys that you weren't able to do on your own?
A couple things. One, my background was in retail marketing and product marketing and some operations to a certain extent. So I was a bit of a jack of all trades from on the business side. So I knew I could, get things done. And then my business partner came from finance and had, a really strong acumen from a business perspective. So we're like, you know what, we think we can do this, but we know nothing about manufacturing. We know nothing about product design. Like, I don't know CAD. I don't know how to design things. So, when you're launching a business and creating a product, a metal product from scratch is a pretty big part of your business, and you don't have the first clue of how to do it. We were missing that link. So one, when we got them, we got a team of product engineers and designers and manufacturing specialists that could help us bring this idea to life. So that was the first thing. The second thing, honestly, was it gave us credibility, right? As we were talking to partners, whether it was manufacturing partners, issue converting facilities, larger hotel groups, knowing that we had them and they were, a recognized award-winning product design firm. It's not just two guys who are like, hey, we want to leave our jobs and sell toilet paper. So the credibility was huge at the start and for investors as well.
Yeah. So when you think about the design of the dispenser, what
Yeah.
about it kind of makes it unique? I know it's a design that's patented.
Yeah. There's a few things. So there are, probably 6 different companies in Europe that do what we do. They sell plastic dispensers that go on the wall and they sell folded toilet paper. So it exists. It just doesn't exist in any capacity like that here in North America. The first thing we did is we made it look really nice. You know what I mean? Like instead of something that you would see in like a quick service restaurant bathroom or like a gym or a community center, no disrespect to them, but like we built something that would look really nice in a 4 or 5-star hotel. So it would, the design was very, very sleek. The finishes were really, really nice. So that was the first thing, is make it look really good. And then on the paper front, we knew we had to make our paper larger than the small sheets that we saw over in Europe. And we knew that we wanted to make it bamboo, which there was no folded bamboo toilet paper on the market outside of a Foxfold, right? We sort of created that. So design was one of them. We have design patents. And then on the utility patent side, just in how it works, we have a special cartridge mechanism that comes up where you put the paper. It's built modular, so it's different panels that can be replaced. So you don't have to throw the whole thing out. So a bunch of more, nerdy things that make our dispenser the best dispenser on the market.
Contributes to the more elevated experience that you were speaking to.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I first heard about Foxfold, what came to mind is, how has this not been thought of really before?
Yeah.
It seems so simple, but it's a matter of, taking the initiative and changing that one simple thing that often gets overlooked. And you guys really did that.
Yeah, I appreciate it. The simplicity is something that I was always attracted to. And I think that's why I jumped in. And I remember, a few years ago, I was catching up with someone and they were working on like, oh, what are you working on? And it was like, it had to do with the internet and blockchain and all this other stuff. And I think he took like 10 minutes to explain it to me. And at the end, I was like, yeah, I kind of get it. I kind of understand it. I said, what are you up to? I'm like, I left my job to go do folded toilet paper. He's like, why? I'm like, well, because hotels throw it out. So this way they don't. And he was like, oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it, like in 8 seconds, I was able to explain what it is that we were doing. And I've always been attracted, I think, to that simplicity. From a sales perspective, it makes it really easy to do. So, yeah.
What kind of reactions do you get from people when you share what you do?
A lot of the times, Dorian, it's what you just said, which is never like, why didn't I think of that? Or, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like what does happen to all the half-used rolls of toilet paper? Or in the case of our facial tissue solution, and we didn't come up with it, a hotel actually came up with it. So they were using our toilet paper product and they said, hey, I like this. It's saving me money. It's helping me from a sustainability perspective. Housekeeping likes it. Why don't you design something like that for facial tissue? And we were like, well, what do you mean? Like, what's the problem with facial tissue? Like, oh, we've got the cardboard Kleenex box with the lid that goes on it. When we pull a yellow sheet, we throw the whole thing out. So why not build like a nice napkin dispenser that you see at a quick service restaurant, but for facial tissue, where you just refill it? And we were like, oh, that's a really simple, great idea. And so we built it. And so now we've got, like you see over here, your facial tissue dispenser. And then instead of buying your Kleenex box, you've got these refills. And surprisingly, this is an even better seller than our toilet paper now. And again, it's one of these things where like, yeah, it's just a really nice napkin dispenser, but for facial tissue. Why didn't I think of that? So we get a lot of that.
Yeah, it sounds like it was a very natural next step. And really only a hotel, business would be the ones to be thinking about that.
Yeah. It was a GM that told us about it. And we were really like, we came back a few months later and we're like, we built it. Do you want to buy it?
Sure.
Yeah, exactly. And they did.
A lot of people associate sustainability with a higher price tag or it's a big cost. Some might even think of it as an investment. Now with Foxfold, you're able to provide a cost advantage. So how is it for you to be able to position that? And are people typically buying Foxfold because of the sustainability aspect, or is it primarily the price that they're interested in?
It's a really good question. So what it allows us to do is remove barriers. And, we had an owner give us the best compliment, I think, which was, you guys are making it easy for me to do the right thing. And there are a lot of long-term sustainability solutions that I think need to be implemented. Unfortunately, they're either very expensive, they're very complicated, they take you outside of the norm of your day-to-day behavior. And I'm not knocking that. We should be doing that. There's a lot of stuff we should be doing. Naturally, the reality is if you can make it easy for someone to adopt something, they're going to do it. And so for us, it was, what barriers can we remove? Okay, price. Well, let's make sure that our price point is in line or below what they're currently paying. So that removes that argument, right? Let's make it easier for housekeeping to use. Now they don't, it's a first in, first out model. What goes in the room stays in the room. There's nothing else to throw out. Housekeeping, okay, operationally, it's now not harder for you to make this decision. And so whenever we thought about this, I was like, what barriers can we remove to make this like the no-brainer decision? And we're very lucky that way that our product actually doesn't cost more. These unit packs that we have are definitely in line with the industry average. So it makes it easy.
Have you had instances where you are having to compete on price with other suppliers?
Yes. Yeah. And we can't be everything to everyone. We realize that. And so if you are buying, if you're a hotel and you're buying literally the cheapest toilet paper there is, or the cheapest facial tissue, the rough stuff that goes through your hands, like, you know what I'm talking about, right? We can't compete with that, nor do we want to. And so, I think my advice to any entrepreneur would be the same that everyone would say is, if you've got a proven model and it works within a specific category, go hit that category. If you can't compete somewhere else, share your value proposition. And we're like, okay, we can't compete at that level, but there's the sustainability side. There's all of the housekeeping benefits, operational benefits. You're not throwing away. There is a price to that. But if you're still not convinced with it, that's fine. There are enough people that buy tissue at a different quality where we can't compete.
Mm-hmm. Right. They're just not your target customer.
They're just not our target customer. Exactly.
So most people think about impact or even some sustainability sometimes or purpose with giving back. But here we talk about it as part of your business strategy. So how did you start thinking about your sustainable purpose as a business driver? You talked a little bit about how you have to position it in a way that makes sense from the cost and operational side, but how you bring that sustainability conversation in.
That's a really good question. Giving back is hugely important. And whether it's small or large, I think it needs to be part of our day-to-day. For it to scale, for things to scale, I fundamentally believe that it has to be part of your business strategy. So making it part of making money, because it's natural for us to want to make money. We live in a capitalist society. And so that was sort of always a bit of our ethos is let's create a business where we can be profitable, where we're servicing a need, but we're doing something that we feel has a positive impact. And I think that one, it comes down to the idea that you have, but two, it comes down to, our core goal is not to maximize profits at all costs. And if you have that differentiation that like, hey, we're going to make an impact along the way through the business decisions that we make. We didn't have to make it out of bamboo, right? Bamboo is a little bit more expensive. That eats into our margin. Our dispensers didn't need to be as beautiful and complex as they are. We're like, hey, that's going to be important for us, the way we want to build it, that we want to use mostly metal. So there's few strategic decisions along the way that, match our ethos and the types of people that we work with and types of hotels that we work with. So, I think that for, all of this to scale and sustainability to scale and giving back to scale, it needs to be tied in with your business model and the need to have a profit as well.
I like the way you explained how it goes into even just the day-to-day decisions that you're making, the material that you're using, what should the container be made out of, because all of that plays into the bigger picture as well. Often I speak to founders and they want to have a giving model attached to their revenue or the profits. So it's giving on the back end, or so their purpose is on the back end, which has its place, but I think it can grow so much further when it's integrated into everything that you do.
Yeah, it's funny. We do give. So we plant a tree for each carton of paper that we sell, right? On behalf of the hotel, and it's done with an incredible tree planting service called Very Tree. And so, our whole ethos was, hey, let's not use trees. Let's use bamboo because it grows 15 times faster. It's the most renewable plant on earth. And on top of that, let's plant trees. The funny part is we don't really lead with the tree planting thing. That's a nice to have. That's an easy thing for us to do. Our core business, which is don't use trees and use way less product than you were using before. Our business model is the pitch from a sustainable perspective.
Yeah. And I think that's the beauty. I think often you see maybe you're using a tree-based product, but then you're planting trees. So it becomes an offset strategy. Yeah. Let's offset what we've taken. But instead, you're saying we're not going to use trees at all, and we're going to plant some in addition to that. So it really, you can really see how it goes hand in hand together.
Yeah, exactly.
What is one lesson that you would share with other founders who want to build a business with purpose?
I would say do your research, right? Take the time to understand what impact you can have, what players you would need to align yourself with, how much money you think you would need. Like do a lot of planning before jumping in. And maybe it's because I'm 41 years old. I've got 2 kids. I had less interest in just having an idea. I'm like, I'm all in. You know what I mean? So I wanted to make sure that we had a lot of the pieces. That being said, at the end of the day, will come a point where you're like, man, do I jump in and do I not jump in? And I think a lot of people get there. And I had gotten there before and I never quite did it. Right. I never was ready to like fully jump in and be an entrepreneur. And it's scary as heck. And I think that what I would say is there will never be sort of the right time for it. But if you've aligned the right players and you think you can do it, jump in, right? Because the value of having that impact is pretty incredible. And I'm having the time of my life. Don't get me wrong, right? There is for sure fear and you got to be realistic about that. But trusting your gut and just going with it will give you a lot of purpose as well.
That's beautiful. You mentioned that you had an opportunity in the past where you had an idea, but you decided not to go all in. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, not in specifically, like there's been many, Durana, to be honest with you, right? And for whatever reason, it would kind of fizzle out most of the time because you went, I actually don't think that this would work. And there are a lot of other ideas, frankly, that I never really did too much research into it. And then a few years later, you go, oh man, I thought of that. And I think we've all had that, right? It's very easy to come up with an idea. It's very hard to, like, the hard part is going through it. And so, I would say if you've got that idea, and this would have killed me, like if we didn't act on this and in a few years I saw a folded toilet paper company, literally I would have just gone into depression. I would have been like, we didn't do it. We had it.
That would be the ultimate punch in the gut.
Yeah, exactly. Missing that boat. And so I think as I got a little bit older, it's funny. Some people say, well, there's more risk the older you get, 100%. But maybe I saw the window not closing, but going like, okay, well, there aren't going to be too many more opportunities where everything lines up where you can go, all right, man, like, let's jump in. Let's start this thing. There is a need for it. There's a business opportunity. The right players are there. like, let's go for it.
There are only so many opportunities that you'll have like this one. And as you get older in life, they become fewer and fewer. And of course, when
Sure.
you have a family, you're going to be a little bit more risk averse. So you want to make sure that everything lines up correctly before you take the
Yeah,
plunge.
yeah, exactly. I mean, this was insane, Doriana. Like, we, to go from the wireless industry to being a full-time toilet paper sales, like I mean, you look back, you go, no, but were you insane? Like what? I'm
You
happy
got
we
to
did.
be a little bit, right?
Oh, 100%. Like my business, my cousin and my business partner, now we've got a larger team. And I'm like, well, you guys are crazy too. What do you mean you're joining us? Like, this is insane. So there has to be an element of insanity there for sure.
And just pure excitement. I've seen following you guys on LinkedIn, seeing the photos that you post of your shows, the displays that you put up, all the arrows pointing to like this is the best toilet paper dispenser. You got to have like that creativity, the energy behind everything that you're doing.
Yeah, yeah. And it's not that I'm fundamentally passionate about toilet paper, right? Like who could
Who
be, right?
is?
Who is exactly? I think it was more so I'm fundamentally passionate about me spending my entire day solving something that I think will have material impact. And that's what I was, searching for, something that, I could call my own with my business partners, but to say, hey, this actually makes a difference. Now,
Yeah.
are we solving, nuclear energy? Are we solving? No, but I think that's what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be. Like we honed in on this, or like we actually think we can impact tissue waste in hotels, right? Just that. Okay, let's do that. Maybe, we'll move on to the next thing later. But for now, we're maniacal about solving that. And for whatever reason, it gets us really excited because we see it happening.
Picking that one thing and going all in on it.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is an unpopular opinion that you have about sustainability in business?
In business, I mean, listen, that we know that there is a lot of greenwashing that happens. I'm going to switch up my answer a little bit, and not so much that something that bugs me about sustainability within businesses, more so that I find that sustainability as an industry, as a concept, can be very, very complicated, right?
Mm.
And we are in the world now where we work with a lot of different certifications and different organizations and bodies, and you got science-based goals and different terminology and all that. And listen, I get it, right? Because we do have to measure this stuff. So I think that there's a lot of good work that happens there. But one of the byproducts is it makes sustainability really scary for the average person that's like, hey, I want to make a difference. But man, like, hey, we have all these energy needs as a human race, but we have all these fossils. And how do you solve that problem? And then there's probably 100 things I could do today to improve, lower my carbon footprint. And so it becomes a bit daunting. And what I would say is like, man, just focus on one thing. And so for us, it was like, there's lots of things we could do. We're going to do tissue paper, hotels. That's it. On a personal level, there's probably a ton of things that I could do that I don't do where I could improve myself from a sustainability perspective. I'm like, I'm going to focus on this one thing. And then maybe in 10 years, it'll be something else. For anyone in sustainability, I would say, just try to do one thing at a time and then get into that habit of that one thing and then move on to the next. Because as a whole, we've made sustainability really complicated.
It's so complicated and there's so much pressure. I think
Yeah.
especially consumers are so critical and want to be cautious that we're not believing the wrong message. We want to make sure the messages that we're taking in are true. And with that, there comes a fear of, am I doing it right?
That's
Or
right.
am I doing it good enough? And I'm sure a lot of businesses have that fear. When I'm speaking to different organizations and other businesses, they're like, we want to make sure that we can make this claim to say that we can say that we're doing this. And how
Yeah.
can we measure it effectively and be able to communicate that? I think there's a lot of pressure around that too.
Yeah.
So I completely agree with you there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And like there's a lot a hotel can do, and there's stuff that's more complicated. But sometimes I see a hotel, maybe they don't have all the certifications, they don't have all this stuff, they don't have like a 10-year goal, but they remove plastic bottles from the rooms, right? And so you fill it, they have glass bottles. Okay, that's so simple, right? That's like an easy thing that you can do. And I'm just picking on that because it came to the top of my head. But like, I guess what I'm saying is, rather than focus on a lot of times like the long-term goals, there's probably some really basic stuff that you can do in your day-to-day operations that you don't even have to measure it. You just be like, hey, we remove plastic bottles, right? What does that do to my scope 3 emissions, and who cares? Just go do that. That's a
Just
really
do it
easy thing to
anyway.
do. Yeah, exactly.
Do you find that hotels know exactly what they're looking for in terms of everyone wants to be greener, but do you find that they know what they're looking for specifically or how they want to do that? How do those conversations play out?
Some do. Some are miles ahead and miles ahead of us. Like there's some properties that have, different green key certifications or beyond green certifications. There's a lot of different certifications out there, and they're all great. And I look at
Mhm.
the initiatives that they're doing. Some hotels that we work with are carbon neutral, right? And like the amount of work and years that it has taken to get there, like we're learning from them. Like, oh my gosh, you guys are
Mm.
doing this, you guys are doing that. Like this is next level. And then there are others that are just starting their journey from a sustainability perspective, and there are others that they're just not there yet, right? That's not their jam right now. So we talk to so many hotels, and it really ranges the gamut. But we get really inspired by some. We're like, oh man, for you, it's definitely not a cost thing. Like some of the initiatives that you're doing cost you more money. Now it helps you from a brand perspective. It definitely helps you operationally, and you attract a different type of clientele, and so you're winning that way. But we get really impressed.
What is the most interesting thing that you've seen? I'm curious. You said you've worked with a hotel that's net zero. Did you say, or how did you describe it?
Yeah, and it would be just how holistically they approach their operations from a sustainability perspective. So it wouldn't be like any one thing, but like anything that you could think of, like they're doing it, right? Like whether it's farm to table or their energy or their recycling program or their zero waste program, and they're diverting, food waste, like everything that they have operationally within their hotel, they are looking at it from the lens of like, okay, is this circular? Is this sustainable? Like how, could we be less wasteful? And so I think that, you've got some groups that unfortunately they need to check a box, right? And I get it. You don't have the luxury from a cost perspective to do it. And you have others that are like, no, we're going to make it part of our mandate. So it's probably more holistically in everything from front of office to back of office to waste to building materials, all that. And I'm like, man, you guys really care. This is cool.
Yeah, and they got the resources to be able to make it holistic. And I think it's so important what you mentioned. Some businesses, they are only able to check the box based on the stage that they're in. But there are small things that they can do without needing to feel overwhelmed, like they need to do the farm to table or recycling their water, all of those things that are possible because the list can be endless.
The list can be endless, and the list can be expensive. And as a business owner, I get it. Margins are tight. You're trying to get by. You know what I mean? And so I
Mhm.
completely understand that. And for that, I would say, yeah, there are some basic things that you can do that end up not costing a lot of money or are at or below what you're spending right now. It's just decisions need to be made for it. So everyone's always going to be on a spectrum in their sustainability journey. And I think that, there's a place for companies like us and other companies to come in and meet them wherever they're at in their journey.
So if hotels were to continue ignoring sustainability, if they're not, taking the small actions that they can do, what is really at stake here?
I do think that if you're not looking at any of these, if you're not looking at any of your operations within that lens, you're going to be losing money because I do believe that with waste comes wasted profits as well, right? So in our
Mm.
case of toilet paper, if you're throwing stuff out, let's say plastic, but like there are solutions to plastic bottles that can actually save you money in the long term. There are solutions to a lot of cool companies out there that are retrofitting different types of shower heads and plumbing solutions so that you waste less water. The byproduct of that is you waste less money. So there definitely is a correlation in a lot of stuff between being more sustainable and wasting less, which means it's better for your bottom line. Some take a little bit of an investment, but the payback is not as long as you would think. So one, I think lost revenue, and we've got to change that perception that being sustainable ends up costing you more money in the long term. And then two, I think definitely from a brand perspective, do you want to be playing catch up over the next few years on things that essentially just become the status quo after a while, right? Like, do you want to
Yeah.
be, the last hotel that is using plastic bottles in their rooms and the little soap and shampoo bottles and all this other waste? Like at some point, it's like, okay, guys, we've moved on from all of this.
Right. At some point, you have to say it's time to get with the times, whether it be because of sustainability or the
Yeah,
business,
yeah,
or
exactly.
just like the experience of the customer too.
That's right. That's right. Right. As travelers and guests become more accustomed to solutions that they believe waste less, I think you want to position yourself that way. But fundamentally, before that, I think it needs to be an operational efficiency and a cost question. And I think that there is a lot of operational efficiency in switching to these more sustainable waste reduction initiatives.
Yeah. So if Foxfold succeeds and
Well, first, my wife will be really happy.
right, of course, that's the most important thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So if Foxfold succeeds and your solution has become the standard, what will the world look like in 50 years?
People talk, hey, what's your dream? Fun dream for this company is that you go into a hotel and you see a roll of toilet paper and you go, not a roll. Like, really, who does that? Right? Much like we're so used to dispensers on the wall now for soap and shower. Like, it's ingrained now. They're like, this is just a far less wasteful way of doing it. We want the exact same thing to happen with Foxfold, right? Both for our facial tissue and our toilet paper solutions. When that happens, I think it's because, we are part of a cohort of a lot of new companies that are challenging the status quo, right? Toilet paper has been the toilet paper for over 100 years because, like, why not? You know what I mean? And I think that there's a lot of really cool new technology that's coming out and new hardware and new manufactured goods and services that are coming out that are solving these really small problems. So yeah, I think we would just be part of that really cool wave.
That's beautiful. What you said reminds me of the saying, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
And, for so long, no one thinks as the toilet paper roll as being broken or that being, that huge of a problem. But questioning those things, it's like, this could be better. I think that's part of it too.
Yeah. And I think, I'm very lucky to be in the hospitality industry. I absolutely love it. I think there's a lot of opportunity, like an industry, for improvements. Sometimes it's if it's not broke, don't fix it. A lot of times people recognize that this is probably not the best thing to do, but I mean, what are you going to do? There's no other solution. And I think there are a lot of really cool companies around North America now for like food waste diversion, right? So you've got all this amazing food that is prepared for banquets and stuff like that. And it's been going in the garbage. And thankfully now there's like dozens of cool companies that have created technology and apps that connects, hospitality and kitchens. When food is prepared before it goes to waste, they go pick it up and they bring it to places. I mean, this is a very simple concept. It's just someone's got to go, yeah, I'm going to do it. I will create the logistics in order to do it. And now that's happening and that's growing. And there's dozens of these super basic ideas that we're just huge fans of.
So what are you excited about Foxfold?
Well, we're super blessed that every month we have more and more hotel partners. And I can't tell you how freaking awesome it is to build a company and have a product that you think is really cool and get more validation, and every month get more calls being like, okay, sign me up. So for now, it's growth. We're expanding through distribution. We're expanding now with larger and larger brands, which is really, really cool. Like, we started with boutique hotels because they're in this industry, they're the first to take a chance. And we're really, really, happy that they did. And we're grateful that they did. From that validation, we're now in Hiltons and we're in Sheratons and we're working with Accor and we're working with larger and larger brands, expansion into other parts of the United States. So growth is huge. And then we've got 2 new product SKUs that are coming out, which I can't talk about right now, but we've already got some pretty cool product innovation that is happening on the heels of what we've seen work to, just further increase what it is that we can do.
So we'll have to stay tuned for,
You'll have to stay tuned. You'll have to stay tuned. It's still in the tissue game, so we're not like diverging into this whole other category, but more stuff in tissue.
Okay, great. So how many hotels are you guys working with now?
We probably have just north of 200 hotels that we're working with.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Greg. It's been a pleasure having you on Purpose Room.
Thank you very much for having me, Doriana.
Yes, of course. I really loved the insights that you've shared, and really just your story of how you started Foxfold, the things that are keeping you excited and the things that are keeping you going. So it's been really great.
And you too. Congratulations on this podcast. I'm looking forward to other people that you're going to interview and your growth as well.